Hi, everyone. Today we're talking about the next generation of actuaries. Who are they? What do they care about? And how do they plan to use their actuarial superpowers to make a difference in the world? Joining us for this discussion to shed some light on these questions is one of our most recently qualified actuaries, Daniel Bartlett. Daniel qualified as a fellow through the Actuaries Institute here in Australia, where he's worked in actuarial consulting across a range of areas, primarily in superannuation, which is known as retirement incomes or pensions in other parts of the world. Before that, he worked in underwriting and claims, and he was a high school maths and history teacher. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you here, and what an interesting path you've taken to becoming an actuary, Daniel. So I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about your journey and reflections in today's conversation. But before we get into that, Daniel, how do you use your actuarial superpowers to make a difference in the world?
So what I would say is I the way I like to think about what I do is I help to bring clarity to complexity. That's the way I like to think about it. And so doing that, effectively I help businesses and decision makers make better informed decisions, which leads to better outcomes for members and policyholders. That's what I'd like to say.
That's a great use of your superpowers, Daniel. So you've had a pretty interesting pathway to becoming an actuary, and so you've trained and worked as a maths and a history high school teacher. So super interesting background there. When did you know that you wanted to be an actuary?
Well, I guess I knew about what actuaries do when I was at uni studying mathematics to become a maths and history teacher
Ah,
first. And then at that time, my lecturer sort of said, "Oh, this is a practical application of the maths we're learning here."
mhm.
And I thought that was interesting at the time, but really I just wanted to finish uni and start, earning full-time money basically. I didn't think, I want to pivot then immediately. And then after I was sort of taught for about a year and a half at a high school, I just sort of got thinking, is this really what I want? I love teaching and still love
Mm,
teaching, but I just sort of thought, I really love maths, and do I want to be some sort of applied mathematician? Maybe
mm.
that would, you know, challenge my brain a bit more, maybe. So I thought about that, and then I looked at, courses, practical applications of mathematics, and actuary came up, and then I remembered, oh yes, this would have been interesting, and then decided to apply for a course, a master's, and it probably wasn't until maybe even after I finished the course that I really knew that I wanted to be an actuary, because I thought the same thing about teaching when I was teaching
Mm.
before, or when I was doing the course. I thought that's what I wanted, but it turns out I didn't really know. So I've sort of now, I guess, subscribed to this notion that you don't really know until you're in it. And that was the case for me. So it was really once I finished uni and sort of started working in insurance that I felt, yes, I would like to stay in this world, I think. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you feel like you've landed in the right place now. And I find it super interesting. I absolutely agree with what you've just said about you don't quite know until you're there. It feels like a big investment to embark upon one of those vocational degrees and then not quite know until you get there. So I'm glad that now that you've landed in actuarial world, you're happy to be here. But I find it personally really interesting, Daniel, because I remember being at high school and thinking the same thing, like, I'm good at maths. I could be a maths teacher or I could be an actuary.
Yeah.
And I picked actuary and went straight down there, but I always do wonder what it would have been like to have been a maths teacher. So, I mean, you've done both. What are some of the similarities and differences between maths teaching and actuarial?
Yeah, well, firstly, I would say that both are good, but both are good careers,
Mm.
I very much respect teachers generally, but maths teachers, very much so. And yeah, they are some elements are similar and some are different. So the similarities, I think that you're still explaining difficult and complex concepts to
Mm,
people that don't fully or may not fully understand them.
mm,
You're still helping people to make informed decisions. You're still giving presentations, and public speaking often. You're still writing out and solving problems on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper. You're still sort of managing people. You're still working as a team. You're still doing maths. And you're still thinking critically, and you also have yeah, professional obligations like professional development, ongoing sort of thing. That's in teaching as well as actuarial.
mm, mm.
And we're still analysing history. That may be in a different way,
Yeah,
but yeah, I was a history teacher, so I was analysing it then, and I still am now.
yeah,
Um, yeah, now it's more data than history, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it is history. And
Well,
then
lots of parallels though, and I guess, when you said you use your actuarial superpowers around, creating clarity out of complexity, it sounds like you would have had a bit of a head start doing that as a teacher as well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's something that I feel is a strength of mine in the actuarial world for
Mm.
sure. Um, Primarily because of my background in teaching. Yeah, I had to. Yeah, I built a short career in teaching, doing exactly that, explaining concepts that
Mm,
yeah the
mm.
students at the time did not ever see until they were in the classroom on the day.
Yeah,
Yeah, in some ways, the clients now that I work with have more knowledge about
yeah.
the subject matter that it is I'm sort of presenting on. So yeah, definitely a head start
Mm,
in that sort of thing. Yeah.
okay.
Um,
And some differences?
yes, the differences. So the big ones, obviously I'm working with decision makers, very important people in big businesses now. Whereas as a teacher, I was working with kids. Yeah, and I guess it can be slightly more intimidating to work with adults than kids. Yeah, not that I've had any bad interactions or anything like
Mm,
that,
mm.
but just personally, it was easier to walk it and present in front of a classroom of kids versus, presenting at a conference in front of industry leaders and experts,
Interesting.
that sort of thing. But I haven't had bad experiences doing that either.
Yeah.
It's just a mental thing. The hours and the holidays are of
Mhm.
course different. A standard 9 to 5 sort of thing in actuarial world, and
Mhm.
before it was 8:30 to 3:30, and of course there's
Yeah.
meetings and often sort of late night report writing and assignment marking, that sort of thing. Outside of that. But yeah, the hours are different. I guess obviously the complexity of the mathematics involved is different. It's higher in the actuarial
Mhm.
world than the teaching world. And the other one is the consequence of sort of making mistakes, I think,
Mm.
where as actuaries we're dealing with big numbers and real consequences if
Yeah.
you make mistakes. And because of that, there's also a heavy sort of checking process involved, and do review, check, um, due diligence, and you don't I guess you don't really have that in teaching. The teacher goes in the classroom and
Mhm.
does their thing. If you make a mistake, it's all right. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. No one's losing millions of dollars or
That's right.
having a hit to
Yeah.
the balance sheet or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. So yeah, and because of that, a lot less oversight, I guess, in teaching that than in actuarial world. Yeah,
Mm.
appropriately so. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So some similarities, but also some differences. Now you've recently qualified. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What was that process like for you?
Yeah, it was difficult. I
Mm.
won't shy away from that. In I guess my experience, yeah, for me, I always felt that. my peers were, gifted, and naturally picked up things quickly. And when I first went to uni to study the masters, the people I was in the course with, they were all the ducks of whatever school they came from, and
Right.
I was just a country kid, with a dream. And yeah, I guess yeah, it was difficult, at least at first, until I sort of gained some confidence.
Mm.
Um, I felt that the part one exams or the foundation program exams were a lot more tough for me, compared to the part twos and threes.
Mm. Why was
Yeah.
that, do you think?
Well, that they were more technical, I think, more mathematical,
Mm.
yeah, technical concepts, as well as sort of the delivery of the curriculum as well. I did my part ones through the UK system, and that's sort of a distance learning thing where you just read the text and do the exam.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, the part twos and threes have a curriculum and tutes every week, and you interact with the lecturer and the other students involved. Yeah, so I felt that that was a big difference. The way the curriculum was delivered,
Mm.
certainly I think helped make things easier in part, yeah, in the part twos and threes. But also I just feel like my personal skill set is in the qualitative parts of the actuarial field. Yeah, not to say I'm, not sufficient mathematically sort of
Mm.
speaking,
Mm.
but yeah, that's just where my strength is, and that lends itself to the part twos and threes. It's more qualitative and more judgment rather than heavy mathematics, I'd
Yeah.
say.
It's more of that context and application rather than the pure maths of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so it was a challenging experience for you, partly because you found yourself within a set of other peers, students who were very different from you. So that was new, and then having to do your part ones sort of via correspondence as well. That would have been unusually challenging for most of us didn't do that. Most of us that
yeah.
are you haven't done that.
Yeah, and I'd probably also say that you know maybe when you studied as well, and other people say this, there's just people that never study for the exam, but they just get 100% anyway. Like they just don't have to try. I feel like I was the opposite of that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, I guess I had to work hard. And that was probably the thing I did have going for me. I was organized and
Mm.
I didn't procrastinate, and I would wait, I'd get up early every morning and study every work day, so that, and I wasn't lazy about that. So that's certainly what I did have going for me. And
Yeah.
that's how I got through.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to say that other people don't do that, but
No.
maybe out of
But that helped
necessity.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay, so it was challenging process, but you are here now. You have your qualification, you've got your fellowship, and you've got some interesting work that you're doing as well. Well, can you tell us what's the highlight of your actuarial career so far?
Yeah, sure. So I think that it's probably a similar answer to other people, but the sort of core highlights would be qualifying as an
Mm.
associate and fellow.
Hmm.
But then outside of that, it would be getting to work for some major Australian sporting codes.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did some work. Yeah, for sort of, I guess in Australia, what would be a well-known sporting code around their pensions and retirement system.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I guess it was just, I love sport, and, I watch the sport religiously,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like working on your, ideal project, and, you sort of see the stars' names, and, what the work we were producing was sort of helping, my heroes that I loved watching growing up and in sports and things. So, Yeah, that was
Wow.
the highlight. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, tell us more about what you were doing there, because that's not sport and actuarial. It's not always an obvious combination. How were you using your actuarial skills there?
Yeah, so that project involves building a retirement income calculator. So you could punch in the details of a specific person in that sport, and you would be able to see what their contributions are per game, sort of thing, and how that's going to bubble up or accumulate to their retirement and be able to see what their retirement income would look like after they retired from the sport. Uh,
Wow.
and then their managers or their financial advisors will be able to sort of use that and look at that and help the
Mhm.
players prepare in whatever way that they would need to make sure that they were settled post retirement from the game. Yeah, so it was a lot of Excel modeling and a bit of research as well, learning the rules of the super system or the pension
Mm,
system
mm.
for the sporting code because they're different to the normal rules of
Right.
Australian employees because they have such a short working career in the sport.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have to learn their system as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see why that would have been such a highlight for you, Daniel, if that's a code you follow and enjoy watching as well.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I love that. And
amazing.
there's a few other like highlights as well.
Mm,
I did some secondment jobs at McGing, and yeah, one was a sort of big stint for 6 months or so at a life insurer,
mhm.
and another one was at a superannuation fund in Adelaide. So got to sort of go interstate and work. So that was a bit exciting.
Nice.
Um, and then another one in sort of, I guess, a non-traditional field is often I'd say we get involved in class actions for legal firms,
Mm,
lawyers, and doing that gives, I guess, there's an element of sort of social justice in doing that sort of project.
mm,
Um, where we're helping members get, if they've been wronged, where the results of our work are directly rectifying that situation, and that sort of social justice element is something I enjoy about
mm.
working on those sort of projects. Yeah.
Yeah, another way to use your actuarial superpowers to make a difference to restore that justice and make sure people get what they deserve.
Yeah, that's right. I guess that's another difference between teaching and actuarial.
Mm,
In teaching, you sort of see the direct impact of your service over the year. And there's a in one way you're helping a student sort of develop, and that can have a massive impact over the course of their life if you do it right. And that's quite impactful. Whereas in actuarial, you don't necessarily see the results of your service. You might help a fund or a insurance company make better decisions as a result of what you're doing. That might lead to better outcomes for members and policyholders, but it's just not quite the same as
mm,
seeing the difference you can make in individual students over
mm.
the course of a year, sort of thing. It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which is why I sort of like that social justice element of the class action stuff when I get to work on that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can understand that. Absolutely. So, Daniel, now that you are qualified and you've already had a couple of great career highlights so far, where are you hoping to take your actuarial career next?
Yeah, so like what I was sort of saying before is that I don't like to think in terms of this is definitely what I'm going to be doing in the next 10 years. But
Mm,
in my mind right now, I do have a long-term sort of ambition to get involved in actuarial education,
mm,
be it, teaching through, a university or with an institute or something like that, or even just getting involved in um, the curriculum.
Mm.
Yeah, like the curriculum that must be taught at unis or the curriculum that's taught by the institute, just sort of help shaping that or reviewing that or something like that. Because I still have elements of teaching that I do love, and it's a skill set of mine. So
Yeah. A
that's
valuable skill set, I would say.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So that's sort of something I have in my mind long term. At the moment, I'm, happy and content to build up my skill set and, consulting skills and networks and industry and, get a bit more experience. But yeah, maybe in a few years, maybe I'll sort of consider part-time this, part-time that.
Mm.
Yeah, and then long term, maybe do more teaching. But yeah, you never know.
Very
But
good.
that's sort of what's in my mind right now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is a valuable skill set that you have. And speaking as someone who now does a lot of education, not just in the actuarial space, but for actuaries, I think, having that skill set can give you kind of the best of both worlds, and can be quite rewarding. So I can certainly see you teaching for the institute or one of the universities in the future. That'd be a very valuable addition to our profession, I think, and our education system. So, thank you for sharing a bit about your experience, Daniel, and your maybe less conventional pathway to becoming an actuary. I'm glad to hear that you're here and qualified and feeling like you're in the right place for now. I'd like to finish with one question, and it's this. What's one tip that you'd have for actuaries who are still working towards fellowship?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think I have a good answer for that. My answer to that would be get involved in study groups. Because at least in my experience, I felt that they really helped in terms of learning and bouncing ideas off each other, but as well as being accountable. The members of the study group are sort of accountable to contribute ideas to each other,
Hmm.
and especially with things like assignments and at least in the sort of Australian part two and three or actuary and fellow programs, there's assignments and students really like to get together and talk about how they should approach and is this a good idea or not, that sort of thing. And I felt the study groups were really good for that. Another two things I would say, start the assignments early. Of course, the teachers will tell you that, but past experience tells me that the thing is you and I felt this as well. It's not a question of can I do this? Am I skilled enough to do this? It's where do I stop? Um,
Mm.
because you might spend forever trying to answer the first two questions of an assignment, and then have no time for the rest. And um, if you start early, you give yourself enough time. You can figure out how long is it taking me to get through this section. But if you sort of do everything the last minute, you'll be disproportionate, most likely in the time you're supposed to spend. And the last one for me is write your own notes in respect of the chapters or the modules that you learn each week. I felt that was really strong,
Mhm.
in terms of yeah, like learning the tools because you get access to the documents and the curriculum, and you have all these PDF files on hand if you need them. But I felt that writing those out in my own words really helped me prepare, and I felt like I was prepared for each exam, largely because of the fact that I had written the notes out each week as I went through. In my own words and so that I understood it in my own way. I think that was really helpful. Yeah.
Great. So great advice from a qualified actuary and a qualified teacher. So you've got the student and the teacher aspects to that wisdom. So join a study group, start your assignment early and write out your own notes as you go through. So some fantastic tips for aspiring actuaries who are still working through their exams. Daniel, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing your story and reflections, and I'm sure your insight and wisdom will be very helpful for all of our listeners.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, good luck to everyone out there that is studying. Hopefully you get something out of that.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.